Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. So, it has not been apparent to all concerned by now. The Democrats have already lost the midterms for 2022. No, I am not defending the Republicans in any way. So don't start with a two-party cultist mindset. All right, Democrats have made it crystal clear that they will not in any way fight for the American people. Instead, they behave weak when they have the presidency and a majority in the House and Senate. At the same time, they worship themselves. They praise themselves, and it's ridiculous. It's disgusting. They ignore what the people want and instead force Biden's corporate warmongering agenda onto us, even as his approval ratings sank lower and lower. Right now, he's at an approval rating somewhere in the 30-something percentile. And Kamala Harris is, at about 28% approval? So, yeah. Manchin, Sinema, Harris, and Buttigieg are the true faces of the DNC. They are also the strength of the DNC, not their weakness. These are the people who openly pursue and win on issues, while the DNC cries crocodile tears. When the Democrats had the minority, they presented themselves as unified, even though anyone paying attention understood that they were unified against the will of the American people and far more unified against progressives than against Republicans. Yet they ran in the 2018 midterms and again in 2020 as a unified front against Republicans. While they may actually be adversarial against the RNC, it is only against an oppositional party, not in any way against Republican policies. They have demonstrated this by the continuation and expansion of the most damaging policies which were enacted by the Republican majority at the time that they were put in place. They make it very clear that they are in league with the Republicans, with constant rhetoric about bipartisanship. Did you ever once hear about bipartisanship when the Republicans had a majority? No. Since gaining the majority, the Democrats have wailed like banshees about being too weak to fight it not only against Republicans, but against the more openly right-wing elements within their own party. Let me reiterate, openly right-wing. Not once has the DNC or the DNC party elite even suggested withholding funding or support from the future campaigns of Sinema, Manchin, or Buttigieg, as they did with Sanders and Gabbard. While Democrats railed against Trump policies with the rabid assistance of neoliberal corporate media, since Biden took office, they have reversed course. They are not only silent about Biden continuing and expanding the same policies, in many cases, they fully endorse those policies. While they cried that Trump would bring us into World War III, Biden's militaristic aggressions against nuclear-armed nations and their allies have been far more dangerous than Trump's trade conflicts. Democrats weakly mumbled about Trump's tariffs, yet they have fallen silent on Biden's perpetuation of those very same tariffs, while corporate media blames all inflation on the selfish demands of workers wanting living wages and better working conditions. While the Democrats lambasted the Trump tax cuts for the rich, vowing to rescind those tax cuts, there is no longer any mention of rescinding those tax cuts. Excuse me. Any mention of increasing taxes on the wealthy equates to less than 1/4 of the increase necessary to bring taxes in the top tax bracket to 2015 levels, which were already insufficient. The infrastructure bill, which just passed, and the ongoing deliberations over the budget reconciliation, set the SALT cap in stone, which is a massive welfare program for the wealthy. They also make it absolutely clear that they have no intention of holding a recorded vote on universal health care, nor will they make any attempt to increase the minimum wage. There will be no public option. We will return to the full force of the ACA and even expand it, including reinstating the individual mandate. The ACA was one of, if not the, largest corporate welfare program to have ever existed, and they want to make it larger. Each year that Trump was in office, and I talked about this at the time, Democrats screamed of how dangerous he was militarily, while increasing the Pentagon budget every single year. Now Biden is in office, and they have continued expanding the Pentagon budget even further. They attacked Trump's withdrawal from the JCPOA agreement, yet when Biden continues the exact same policy with the exact same requirements from Iran, Democrats voice rabid endorsement, ignoring the voices of the IAEA and European signatories of the JCPOA. When Biden announces an increase of forces in the South China Sea, Democrats seem like drunk teenagers at a nudist rave. Democrats claim Trump would impose martial law, yet they say not one negative word when Biden diverts money from the American Rescue Plan to hire more police officers and has barbed wire fences manned by armed military personnel erected across D.C. Keep in mind, there were marches all over this country just last year, protests in favor of diverting money from police forces into social support programs. The vast majority of Americans think we should decrease military spending and reduce the prison population. Most Americans are in favor of legalizing or at least decriminalizing marijuana at the federal level, while that discussion in Congress is MIA. The increased funding for police will only lead to more drug possession charges, more nonviolent people being arrested. Of course, the story changes radically between when Biden is talking about his addict son versus his drug enforcement policies. He has always been on the side of the drug war, and that has not changed. And you will never hear Democrats calling him out on that contradiction. While corporate neoliberal media hails the infrastructure bill as highly progressive, the truth is that it is a failure for the American public. Yet it was always intended to be exactly that. The proposed amount for the bill began at somewhere around $6 trillion, decreased to $4 trillion, then 3, then 2, and eventually passed at $1.2 trillion, and even that is over 10 years. Plus, every penny of that has to go through corporate hands before anything reaches the public good. There are virtually no controls and definitely no accountability built into the bill. The Democrats believe that the American public has such a short attention span and limited awareness that we will all forget the promises made over the past years. They think we will be convinced again and again of the lesser of two evils strategy. They ignore the fact that this did not work in 2016 and barely worked in 2020. That strategy was far more successful before the rise of social media, where we remind each other of past failures, past promises never acted upon. They are now faced with a younger, more informed constituency than at any time in history. A constituency that is ever more mobilized and active, demanding of action and accountability, not empty words. What really needs to happen is for the American people to mobilize behind a third party, though that seems unlikely given the short time frame between now and the midterms. That means that the promises that they used in 2016, 2018, and 2020 cannot be used again to gain votes. It will take very little for the Republicans to regain a majority in Congress. Virginia was an early warning which the Democrats show no signs of heeding. Instead, they are going to try to use January 6th, Russia, and China as campaign talking points, pushing a populace sick of war and fearful of losing more of our eroding civil rights into full rejection of their charade. Electing Republicans back into a majority will not benefit us in and of itself. However, the public showing that we will not continue re-electing incumbents who fail us is no longer the norm across most of this country. Falling ratings of major corporate news outlets are an illustration that more Americans are not going to be brainwashed. The fact that more voters identify as independent than either Democrat or Republican shows that we are no longer being herded into just two parties. There is a possibility that Republicans elected to office may see how tenuous their positions are and maybe, just maybe, listen to voters' concerns. Not likely, but Republicans do have a stronger sense of self-preservation than Democrats seem to have. no matter what the outcome of 2022, we need to strengthen our support in all ways for third parties beginning right now. We may win some lower races in 2022, but the main strategy has to be long term. We have to be thinking to 2024 and beyond. This is a fight that we cannot afford to not wage. So we need to get on it. All right. Share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving. I am working on Thanksgiving, so this will be the last video that I'm putting out before Thanksgiving. So enjoy your time with your families. If you've got time with your families, take care of yourselves and each other. Okay? Do whatever you can to help each other. All right. And again, if you can, donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. And I will see you after Thanksgiving. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.